Deep in the heart of Minneapolis, Minnesota, there's a company worth $177 billion that you've never heard of. They control what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The meat in your burger, the chocolate in your candy, the corn syrup in your soda. McDonald's, Nestle, Mars, Hershey, they all depend on this one company. Look in your kitchen right now. You'll find dozens of products made by this corporation, but you won't find their name on a single label. That's because this American dynasty has worked very hard to keep it that way. They don't want you to know what happens behind their factory doors. Because if you ever found out, you would never buy their products again. At one point, this company had its own intelligence network, rivaling the CIA. In 2021, their revenue hit $135 billion. The owners? A secret family with 14 billionaires among them that most people have never heard of. The company? Cargill? The man running it today? Brian Sikes, a CEO you've never heard of, controlling an empire you didn't know existed. Every empire starts somewhere. For Cargill, it started with one man who saw an opportunity that everyone else missed. The American Civil War had just ended. The country was in chaos. But William Wallace Cargill saw something nobody else did. Farmers were growing grain, but they had no way to store it. Transportation was slow. Grain would rot before it reached markets. Farmers were losing everything. So William opened a single grain warehouse in Conover, Iowa. Just one building, one bet. Here's where William got smart. America was laying down railroad tracks everywhere. By 1875, railways connected the entire country from coast to coast. And William had a strategy. Wherever the train tracks went, he built a warehouse. By 1880, Cargill had grain elevators at every major railroad junction across America. Suddenly, farmers had somewhere to store their crops. And Cargill, they controlled the storage, which meant they controlled the prices. In 1880, the two empires merged, and by 1890, the Cargill-Macmillan dynasty controlled America's entire grain storage business. Every farmer in America depended on them, but controlling storage wasn't enough. Cargill needed an edge over competitors, and they found it. In 1924, they bought a small company called Taylor and Bornick. What did this company have? A private wire telegraph system. Think about what this meant. While competitors waited days for letters to arrive by mail, Cargill could send messages instantly across the country. This intelligence network became so powerful that people compared it to the CIA. Cargill always knew what was happening before anyone else. Then came 1929. The stock market crashed, the Great Depression was coming, banks were failing, people were losing everything. But Cargill, they saw it coming. Using their intelligence network, they bought massive amounts of grain, stored it all, waited. By 1970, Cargill controlled almost all of America's poultry, dairy, grain processing, and food transportation. But America wasn't enough. They wanted the world. And that's when things got really, really dark. By the 1990s, Cargill was already a global giant. But this period also marks the beginning of another story, the rise of a man who would one day sit at the top of this empire. In 1990, Brian Sikes graduated from Texas Tech University with a degree in agricultural economics. No wealthy background, no elite connections. Just a young graduate looking for work. He joined Cargill at the lowest level on the floor of a beef slaughterhouse in Plainview, Texas. At the same time, the company discovered vast cocoa-growing regions in Ivory Coast, West Africa, perfect climate, weak regulation, extreme poverty, and virtually no labor protections. Cargill shifted cocoa sourcing from Asia to West Africa. While Brian Sikes was learning the brutal realities of meat processing in Texas, Cargill was building its cocoa empire abroad. Then came the Asian financial crisis. Cargill lost nearly $4 billion in a single year, almost 8 years' worth of profit. The family panicked. The company was deeply exposed. They needed to recover fast. Leadership concluded cocoa was already profitable. It just needed to be cheaper. Throughout the 1990s, a horrific system expanded in Ivory Coast. Thousands of children were trafficked from Mali, smuggled across borders, and forced to work on cocoa farms. This produced the cheapest cocoa in the world. Major buyers, including Cargill, placed massive orders. The global chocolate market was consuming millions of tons every year. When investigative journalists exposed the child slavery networks, global outrage followed. Under pressure, Cargill signed the Harkin-Engel Protocol, publicly promising to eliminate child labor by 2005. Nothing changed. By 2018 to 2019, U.S. Department of Labor studies showed child labor in cocoa-growing regions had increased from 31% to 45%. As this unfolded, Brian Sikes continued rising inside the company. Cocoa was not enough. Cargill needed land for soy, palm oil, and feed crops. In 2011, armed security forces and police cleared villages in Indonesia to expand palm oil plantations supplying Cargill. In Brazil, soy linked to Cargill's supply chain was traced to hundreds of square kilometers of cleared Amazon rainforest. In 2020, Brian Sikes had finally reached senior leadership and immediately faced a global crisis. COVID-19 turned meat processing plants into virus hotspots. Workers fell sick. Some died. Production continued. Cargill said it was protecting the food supply. Workers said safety came second to output. In 2021, Brian Sikes became Chief Operating Officer and joined the board of directors. That same year, after 16 years of litigation, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Cargill in the child labor case, ending legal accountability for crimes committed abroad. The victims received nothing. Cargill walked away. Then global food prices surged, supply chains collapsed, families struggled to afford groceries. Cargill reported record profits. The pattern looked familiar: crisis for the world, profit for the company. In 2023, Brian Sikes became president and CEO, the 10th CEO in Cargill's 158-year history. As CEO, Sikes launched modernization efforts, AI-driven forecasting, blockchain tracking, sustainability programs, and worker housing initiatives. Brian Sikes did not create Cargill's legacy, but as CEO and chairman, he became responsible for it. It's now 2025. Brian Sikes has been CEO for 2 years, board chairman for 1 year. He made sustainability promises, announced billions in investments, received industry recognition. Let's be clear about what's happened under Brian Sikes' direct leadership. In 2021, while COO, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Cargill in the child labor case. Men kidnapped as children in the 1990s got nothing. Cargill walked away. Sikes was in the room when these decisions were made. In 2023, in Xingu Island, Brazil, 188 families sued Cargill for stealing their land using fake titles to build a $150 million port. This isn't something Sikes inherited. This is happening now, on his watch. In 2024, a coalition of NGOs named Cargill one of the worst corporations for environmental and social impact. In 2025, environmental groups report zero progress on the 2020 deforestation promise. That 800 square kilometers of cleared Amazon. More is being destroyed every year. The child labor that was supposed to end by 2005, then 2008, then 2010. Still happening. Here's the fundamental question: is Brian Sikes genuinely trying to change Cargill? Consider his position. He's one man. He worked 32 years to reach the top, but he answers to 100 billionaire family members who've profited from this system for 160 years. The Cargill-Macmillan families maintained this empire through the Great Depression, World Wars. Cargill spends millions on lobbying. They influence agricultural policy, trade agreements, environmental regulations. As long as Cargill remains private, controlled by families with no legal obligation to disclose anything, real transparency is unlikely. A new generation demands to know where their food comes from. They want transparency, ethics, real sustainability, not PR campaigns. Can a company this powerful, this secretive, this entrenched actually change? Or will it take government action, massive boycotts, complete transparency laws to force real change? Brian Sikes has the power to be part of the solution, or he can continue to be part of the problem. So there it is, from William Cargill's single warehouse in 1865 to a $177 billion empire in 2025. From Great Depression profiteering to pandemic profiteering. From child slavery to Amazon destruction. From villages burned to indigenous people displaced. 160 years of secrecy. 14 billionaires controlling what you eat. An intelligence network that rivaled the CIA. At the helm today, Brian Sikes. A man who started on a slaughterhouse floor in 1991, worked 34 years to reach CEO in 2023. Is he trying to change this empire, or just the newest face protecting the old system? As long as Cargill remains private, answering only to 100 family members, real change seems unlikely. But you can change, especially in developing countries. We believe foreign products are automatically better. We don't research, we just buy. The greatest power is knowledge. Now you know. What do you think? Is Brian Sikes transforming Cargill or maintaining the status quo? This has been the story of Brian Sikes, the CEO you didn't know, running the company you'd never heard of, controlling the food you eat every day. The greatest power is knowledge.